Welcome to Coins News Daily. Today we reveal the top valuable Lincoln 1-cent pennies that collectors are desperately searching for right now. Watch till the end, your coin might be on this list. If you enjoyed this video about the most valuable rare Lincoln 1-cent pennies, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. Subscribe to Coins News Daily for more amazing coin discoveries. Money bag. Thanks with love for watching. Red Heart. Coin 1. Today we are diving deep into one of the most talked about modern-era pennies in American coin collecting history, the fascinating 1962 Lincoln 1 cent. And if you are a true coin lover, I promise you, this is one episode you will want to watch until the very end. When most people think about rare coins, they imagine something from the 1800s, maybe even earlier. But sometimes, hidden in plain sight, right inside everyday pocket change, there are coins that carry stories, minting secrets, surprising rarity, and real market value. The 1962 Lincoln cent is one of those coins. Let's travel back to the early 1960s. America was in a time of transformation. The space race was heating up. Classic cars ruled the highways. And inside the walls of the Denver Mint, millions of Lincoln cents were being struck for circulation. These coins carried the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of his birth. United States Mint. Denver Mint. Abraham Lincoln. The 1962 Lincoln cent features Lincoln's right-facing profile on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner. On the reverse, we see the classic wheat ears design, two bold wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This wheat reverse design ran from 1909 until 1958. However, here is where many collectors get confused. The 1962 penny actually carries the Lincoln Memorial reverse, not the wheat ears. The wheat design ended in 1958, and from 1959 onward, the reverse displayed the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Lincoln Memorial. So what makes the 1962 special if it is not a wheat penny? After all, the Denver Mint produced over 1 billion Lincoln cents in 1962. That sounds common, right? Yes, in circulated grades, the 1962 is very common. You can still find worn examples in change jars today. But condition is everything in coin collecting. And when we talk about high-grade uncirculated coins, especially those with blazing red luster, sharp strikes, and zero-contact marks, the story changes dramatically. The early 1960s were known for inconsistent minting quality. Dies were often overused. Many coins from this era show weak strikes, especially in the details of Lincoln's hair and the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. So when a fully struck 1962 with exceptional eye appeal surfaces, collectors pay attention. Now let's talk about mint mark placement. The D mint mark appears below the date. On some examples, the mint mark is slightly tilted or punched at a different angle. While most are normal, there are minor variations that advanced collectors examine closely under magnification. But here is where things become truly exciting. Error coins are where modern pennies can become treasure. The 1962 Lincoln cent has been discovered with several types of mint errors. Among the most desirable are off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and rare double die varieties. Off-center strikes occur when the coin blank is not properly aligned during striking. Part of the design may be missing, and the blank crescent shape becomes visible. The more dramatic the off-center percentage while still showing the full date, the more valuable the coin becomes. Clipped planchets happen when the metal strip used to punch blanks overlaps slightly, creating a curved missing section. These are instantly recognizable and highly collectible. Die cracks and cuts form when the die begins to break down after striking hundreds of thousands of coins. Raised lines or blobs of metal appear on the coin's surface. Some collectors specialize in these die state varieties, but the real headline makers are double dies. While the 1962 is not as famous as some other double die years, subtle doubling has been found on certain letters and numbers. Strong doubling visible to the naked eye can push demand significantly higher. Condition rarity is another powerful factor. Coins graded mint state 65 red and above become increasingly scarce. When you move into Mint State 66 and Mint State 67 red territory, population numbers drop sharply. Professional grading services such as Professional Coin Grading Service Numismatic Guarantee Company have certified only a limited number of 1962D cents at the very highest levels. These top pop examples often become registry set competitors' targets. And when registry collectors compete, prices can climb far beyond what most people expect for a 1-cent coin. Another fascinating aspect is the full steps detail of the Lincoln Memorial. Although more commonly discussed with Jefferson nickels, memorial cents with sharply defined steps and strong architectural detail are much harder to find from this era due to dye where luster is critical. Original mint red color, untouched by oxidation, gives the coin vibrant appeal. Over time, copper naturally tones from red to red-brown and eventually brown. A fully red example preserved for over 60 years is significantly more desirable than a brown circulated coin. Collectors should also watch for coins struck on wrong planchets. Although extremely rare, occasional transitional or wrong metal errors have surfaced in different years. Any authenticated wrong planchet 1962D cent would be a major discovery. Now let's talk about the psychology of coin collecting. Why would someone pay thousands for a penny? Because rarity is relative. A billion coins may have been struck, but how many survived untouched in pristine condition? How many avoided contact marks in mint bags? How many retained blazing red surfaces with razor-sharp details? Very few, and that is where the excitement begins. Searching bank rolls. Checking old collections. Looking through inherited jars of coins. Every collector dreams of finding that one coin worth far more than face value. The 1962D Lincoln cent teaches an important lesson. Even common date coins can become condition rarities. The difference between an average coin and an extraordinary coin can be microscopic. A sharper strike, cleaner fields, brighter luster. So what are real market values? In heavily circulated condition, a 1962D Lincoln cent is generally worth face value to a few cents. In uncirculated red condition graded around Mint State 63. Examples typically trade for around $10 to $20. In Mint State 65 red, market value often ranges between $40 and $75 depending on appeal.in. Mint State 66 red, auction results commonly fall between $150 and $300. In Mint State 67 red, prices have reached between $1,000 and $2,500 at major auctions. Exceptional top population specimens graded Mint State 67 plus red have realized auction prices above $4,000. Major off-center or dramatic mint error examples with strong eye appeal have sold between $500 and $3,000 depending on severity and preservation, and rare high-grade examples with significant error combinations have crossed the auction block for more than $5,000. So the next time you see a simple 1962D penny, do not ignore it. Examine the strike. Study the luster. Check for doubling. Look for errors. Because hidden within an ordinary coin could be an extraordinary story, coin collecting is not just about money. It is about history in your hands. It is about preserving small pieces of America's journey. And sometimes, it is about discovering that a humble 1-cent coin can carry surprising value. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1962D Lincoln cent, stay curious, keep searching, and always remember, treasure does not always glitter. Sometimes, it looks just like a penny. Coin 2. We are diving deep into one of the most talked about modern pennies in American coin collecting history, the 1971 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark. And trust me, by the end of this video, you will never look at your spare change the same way again. The 1971 Lincoln cent is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln. By 1971, billions of these coins were being produced for circulation. Most people assume that because it is common, it cannot possibly be valuable. But that assumption is where collectors often miss hidden treasures. First, let's understand what no mint mark actually means. In 1971, Lincoln cents were struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Denver carry a small d under the date. Coins from San Francisco usually carry an S. But Philadelphia coins during that time typically had no mint mark at all. So technically, most 1971 pennies you find without a mint mark were struck in Philadelphia. Now here's the interesting part. The Philadelphia Mint struck more than 1 billion of these coins in 1971. That sounds incredibly common. And yes, in ordinary circulated condition, these coins are worth exactly 1 cent. Even in lightly circulated condition, they usually trade for only a few cents above face value, but condition changes everything. When we talk about coin value, we must talk about grading. Professional grading services use a scale from 1 to 70. The higher the number, the better the condition. A coin graded MS60 is uncirculated but may have marks. A coin graded MS65 is considered gem mint state with strong luster and minimal marks. And when you move into MS66, MS67, and above, you are entering territory where perfection becomes extremely rare. The 1971 no mint mark Lincoln Cent is widely available in lower mint state grades. However, finding one in superb gem condition is surprisingly difficult. Why? Because copper is a soft metal. It easily develops contact marks, spots, discoloration, and dull surfaces. Over decades, even uncirculated coins can lose their bright red color. Collectors divide copper cents into 3 color categories: brown, and red. Red coins retain at least 95% of their original mint luster. And here is where the value difference becomes dramatic. A typical circulated 1971 no mint mark cent is worth 1 cent. An uncirculated example in MS63 brown condition might sell for only a few dollars. In MS65 red, it can reach around $20 to $40 depending on eye appeal. But in MS67 red condition, auction results have reached around $1,000 to $2,000. And the very finest known examples graded MS67 plus red have brought prices close to $10,000 at major auctions. Let that sink in. A 1 cent coin selling for nearly $10,000, simply because it survived in extraordinary condition. Now let's talk about errors. This is where the excitement really begins. Mint errors occur during the striking process. They are accidental, and true errors are highly collectible. For the 1971 no mint mark Lincoln Cent, collectors search carefully for several types of errors. The first is the double die. A double die happens when the die itself receives a misaligned impression during creation. This causes doubling on letters, numbers, or design elements. Some 1971 cents show noticeable doubling on the date and the word Liberty. Strong examples of double die varieties can command significant premiums. Another valuable error is a broad strike. This happens when the coin is struck outside of its retaining collar, causing it to spread wider than normal. A dramatic broad strike error from 1971 can sell for $100 to several $100 depending on visual impact. Off-center strikes are also popular. When a blank planchet is not properly centered, part of the design is missing. If the date remains visible and the off-center percentage is dramatic, these coins can bring strong prices. A 50% off-center 1971 cent with a clear date has sold in the range of $200 to $500. Clipped planchets are another fascinating error. These occur when the metal strip feeding into the press overlaps improperly, creating a curved missing section. Authentic clipped 1971 cents typically sell for $50 to $150 depending on size and condition, and then there are wrong planchet errors. Occasionally, a 1971 cent was struck on a foreign coin blank or another denomination planchet. These rare mistakes are extremely valuable. Verified examples have sold for thousands of dollars, but collectors must be careful. Damage is not the same as a mint error. Post-mint damage, such as hammering, squeezing, or environmental corrosion, does not add value. That is why authentication from professional grading companies is so important for high-value pieces. Another factor that drives value is full strike detail. Look closely at Lincoln's hair above his ear and the bow tie under his chin. On the reverse, check the Lincoln Memorial steps. Weak strikes are common. A sharply struck example with blazing red luster is much harder to find. many collectors search bankrolls hoping to discover high-grade examples. While the odds are low, the thrill of the hunt keeps the hobby alive. It only takes one extraordinary coin to change everything. So what should you do if you find a bright red 1971 penny with no mint mark? First, do not clean it. Cleaning destroys original surfaces and can dramatically reduce value. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges and consider professional grading if it appears flawless. The beauty of coin collecting is that even common coins can hold uncommon stories. The 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln cent represents a time in American history when billions of pennies flowed through the economy during a period of change and growth. Most were spent without a second thought. A tiny fraction survived in remarkable condition, waiting decades to surprise the right collector, and that is what makes this coin so exciting. It reminds us that rarity is not always about low mintage. Sometimes rarity is about survival. Survival in pristine condition. Survival without spots. Survival with blazing original mint red color. Before you dismiss the pennies in your jar tonight, take a closer look. Check the date. Look under the year for a mint mark. Examine the surfaces under bright light. You might not find a $10,000 coin. But the possibility makes the search unforgettable. In today's market, the real values are clear. Circulated examples are worth 1 cent. Choice uncirculated red examples can sell for $20 to $40. Superb gem pieces in MS67 red condition have reached around $1,000 to $2,000. The finest certified examples have achieved prices approaching $10,000 at auction. Major mint error versions can range from $100 for minor errors to several $1,000s for dramatic and rare striking mistakes. A single penny. A world of possibility. If you love coins, treasure hunting, and the thrill of discovering hidden value, then keep searching, keep learning, and keep collecting. Because sometimes, history, rarity, and opportunity are hiding in plain sight, in the smallest coin in your pocket. Coin 3. We are diving into one of the most talked about modern pennies in American coin history, the 1974 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark. And if you are a true coin lover, or even someone who just found an old penny in a jar, you need to listen very carefully because what looks like an ordinary coin could actually be a hidden treasure. The story of the Lincoln cent begins in 1909, when the United States introduced the first coin to feature a real historical figure, President Abraham Lincoln. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent became one of the most collected coins in the country. By 1974, millions and millions of these pennies were being produced every single day. But here is where things get interesting. In 1974, most Lincoln cents were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and coins from Philadelphia at that time did not carry a mint mark. So when we say, no mint mark, it means the coin was made in Philadelphia. That might sound common, and yes, over 4 billion 1974 pennies were struck in Philadelphia alone, but not all 1974 no mint mark pennies are equal. The magic is in the details. First, let's talk about condition. A 1974 Lincoln cent with no mint mark in circulated condition is very common and usually worth only face value. But when you find one in uncirculated mint state condition, with strong luster, no wear, and sharp details, the value begins to rise. Collectors search for coins graded MS65, MS66, or even higher. In superb gem condition, these coins become much more desirable. Now here is where collectors really get excited. Errors and varieties. One of the most famous and mysterious stories connected to the 1974 Lincoln cent is the experimental aluminum version. In 1974, due to rising copper prices, the United States Mint experimented with aluminum cents. These were never officially released for circulation. Almost all were destroyed, and only a very small number are believed to exist today in private hands. These aluminum 1974 cents are among the rarest modern U.S. coins in existence. If one of these aluminum 1974 cents were ever legally sold at public auction, experts estimate it could bring hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly even more depending on condition and legality. That is how powerful rarity can be. But even among regular copper 1974 no mint mark pennies, there are collectible varieties. there are double die obverse varieties where you can see noticeable doubling in the lettering, especially in the word Liberty or in the date 1974. This doubling happens during the die creation process and is not damage, it is a true mint error. Strong double dies are always sought after because they are scarce and visually dramatic. Another exciting error is off-center strikes. If the coin blank was not properly aligned when struck, part of the design may be missing, and the coin will appear shifted. The more dramatic the off-center strike, while still showing the full date, the more valuable it becomes. There are also clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing due to a cutting error at the mint. These errors are highly collectible because they clearly show that something unusual happened during production. Then there are coins struck on wrong planchets. Imagine finding a 1974 Lincoln cent struck on a dime planchet or another foreign coin blank. These wrong planchet errors are extremely rare and can command very strong premiums in the collector market. Collectors also pay close attention to color designation. A 1974 cent can be classified as brown, red-brown, or red. Full red examples with bright original mint color are far more valuable than dark brown circulated pieces. The difference in price between a brown and a high-grade red example can be dramatic. Now let's talk about grading. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC play a huge role in determining market value. A certified high-grade 1974 no-mint mark penny gives buyers confidence. When a coin reaches MS67 red or higher, it becomes conditionally rare. Even though billions were made, very few survive in flawless condition. That is what we call condition rarity. Collectors compete fiercely for top population coins. Registry set collectors want the best of the best. That competition drives auction prices upward. Another factor that adds excitement is copper composition. The 1974 Lincoln cent is made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. With copper prices fluctuating over the decades, there was real concern in the early 1970s about the cost of producing pennies. That is why the aluminum experiment happened in the first place. This historical context makes the 1974 issue especially interesting. Imagine searching through rolls of pennies and spotting a sharply struck 1974 with blazing red luster. You tilt it under the light and see no scratches, no dullness, and strong detail in Lincoln's hair and beard. You flip it over and see bold wheat ears replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design, crisp and fully struck. That moment is what coin collecting is all about, discovery. Now let's discuss real market values. A circulated 1974 Lincoln cent with no mint mark is worth 1 cent. An uncirculated example in MS65 condition typically sells in the range of $10 to $20 depending on appeal. In MS66 red condition, examples have sold for around $40 to $70. In superb MS67 red condition, auction prices have reached several $100s, often between $500 and $1,000. Depending on the market and population reports, major mint error examples such as strong double dies or dramatic off-center strikes with full date can sell for $100 to several $1,000s depending on severity and preservation, and the legendary 1974 aluminum cent, if ever sold legally at auction, is believed by experts to be worth in the range of $200,000 or more. So what makes the 1974 no-mint mark Lincoln cent valuable is not just age. It is rarity within condition, mint errors, experimental composition, and collector demand. Before you ignore that old penny in your drawer, take a closer look. Check the date. Look for doubling. Examine the color. Study the strike. Because sometimes the smallest coin carries the biggest surprise, coin collecting is about patience, knowledge, and attention to detail. And the 1974 Lincoln cent reminds us that even in years when billions were made, true rarity can still exist. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of America's most fascinating modern pennies, stay tuned, keep searching your change, and remember, the next valuable coin could already be in your pocket right now. Coin 4. We are diving into a coin that looks ordinary at first glance, a simple penny, something most people ignore, toss into jars, or leave in their car's cup holder. But what if I told you that one small copper coin from 1975 could be worth far more than 1 cent? What if the right detail, something so tiny most people never notice, could turn pocket change into serious collector money. Stay with me, because this story is fascinating. We're talking about the 1975 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark. At first, that may not sound special. After all, millions and millions of pennies were made in 1975. But in the world of coin collecting, rarity is not always about age. It's about details. Tiny details. Minting variations. Condition. Errors. And demand. The 1975 Lincoln cent features the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, a design created by Victor David Brenner that first appeared in 1909. By 1975, this design had already been in circulation for decades. On the obverse, you see Lincoln facing right, with the words "In God We Trust" above, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1975 to the right. On coins struck in Philadelphia that year, there was no mint mark. That's important. In 1975, the United States Mint produced Lincoln cents at multiple facilities, including Philadelphia and Denver. Coins from Denver carry a small d mint mark. Coins from Philadelphia in 1975 carry no mint mark at all. That was standard practice at the time. So technically, every 1975 penny made in Philadelphia has no mint mark. That means the coin itself is not automatically rare just because the mint mark is missing. But here's where things get interesting. Collectors don't just look at whether there is a mint mark. They look at strike quality. They look at errors. They look at condition. And sometimes, they look at varieties that were created during the minting process. The 1975 Lincoln cent was struck in a copper composition that was 95% copper and 5% zinc. These coins weigh about 3.11 grams. Because they are mostly copper, high-grade examples with strong red luster are especially desirable. Over time, copper darkens. It turns brown. It spots. It tones. So finding a 1975 no mint mark cent in pristine red condition is much harder than finding an average circulated example, and that's the first key to value, condition. A typical 1975 no mint mark penny found in circulation is worth face value 1 cent. Maybe a few cents if it's in decent shape. But when you step into uncirculated territory, especially coins graded mint state 65 red or higher by professional grading services, the value increases dramatically. Collectors compete for the finest known examples. Registry collectors want the best of the best. And when supply of top-grade coins is limited, prices rise, but condition alone is not the whole story. Let's talk about errors and varieties. During the minting process, coins are struck by dies that imprint the design onto blank metal planchets. If something goes wrong during this process, you can end up with a mint error. These errors are highly collectible because they are accidental and often unique. For the 1975 no mint mark cent, collectors have discovered examples with off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned on the planchet. There are double die varieties, where parts of the lettering appear double due to misalignment during die creation. There are die cracks, cuds, and repunched mint mark varieties on Denver issues. Even though the Philadelphia coin has no mint mark, die varieties can still occur in the lettering and date. One of the most desirable characteristics is strong doubling visible in the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." True double dies show clear separation in the letters, not just a shadow effect. These can command significantly higher prices because they are recognized varieties that collectors actively seek. Another factor that adds interest is the historical context. The mid-1970s were a time of heavy coin production. The United States economy was adjusting after the removal of silver from circulating coinage in the previous decade. Billions of cents were produced to meet demand. In such massive production runs, small variations and errors naturally occurred. Most were caught. Some escaped into circulation. Now imagine being the collector who finds one. Picture searching through rolls of old pennies. The sound of copper clinking on a table. The excitement of examining each date under magnification. Then you notice something unusual: crisp red surfaces, blazing luster, and sharp details untouched by circulation. Or maybe you see clear doubling in the lettering. In that moment, that simple penny transforms into something special. For serious collectors, the thrill is not just about money. It's about the hunt. It's about understanding the minting process. It's about preserving history in metal form, but of course, we also have to talk about value. In circulated condition, a 1975 Lincoln cent with no mint mark is generally worth 1 cent to a few cents. In uncirculated red condition, certified mint state examples can sell for several dollars to several dozen dollars depending on grade. In the highest certified grades with full red color and exceptional strike, auction records have reached into the hundreds of dollars. Error varieties, especially strong double dies in high grade, have sold for hundreds and in rare cases over $1,000 depending on appeal and certification. The market decides value based on demand, rarity in top condition, and verification by trusted grading services. Raw coins found online may claim huge prices, but only certified high-grade or recognized error coins consistently achieve strong auction results. So what should you look for if you want to check your own 1975 penny? First, confirm there is no mint mark under the date. That means it was struck in Philadelphia. Second, examine the condition. Does it still have original red luster? Are there scratches, spots, or wear on Lincoln's cheek and jaw? Third, use magnification to inspect the lettering for signs of true doubling. Finally, consider weighing the coin to ensure it matches the standard copper composition. Remember, not every 1975 no mint mark penny is rare. But the right one, in the right condition, with the right characteristics, can be highly desirable. Coin collecting teaches patience. It teaches attention to detail. And sometimes, it rewards knowledge. That's why stories like this capture attention. Because hidden among billions of ordinary coins, a few stand out. Before you spend that penny, take a closer look. Check the date. Check the surface. Check the details. The next valuable find could be sitting quietly in a jar on your shelf. Now let's talk real numbers clearly and honestly. A typical circulated 1975 no mint mark Lincoln cent is worth 1 cent to 5 cents. A bright uncirculated red example in certified mint state 65 condition is commonly valued around $10 to $20. Higher certified grades such as mint state 67 red have realized auction prices ranging from $200 to over $500 depending on appeal and population reports. Strong double die or major error examples in high grade have reached auction levels of several $100s and in rare premium cases over $1,000. That is the real market range based on condition and verified sales, and that is why the 1975 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark continues to fascinate collectors. Not because every coin is rare, but because the possibility exists. And in coin collecting, possibility is powerful. Keep searching. Keep learning. And always look twice at your change. Coin 5. We are diving deep into a coin that almost everyone has seen, almost everyone has spent, and almost everyone has ignored. But what if I told you that a simple Lincoln 1 cent from 1980 with no mint mark could be worth far more than 1 penny? What if the coin sitting quietly in an old jar, tucked inside a drawer, or resting in your pocket change right now could hold surprising value? Stay with me, because this story is not just about a coin. It is about history, hidden rarity, minting mysteries, collector passion, and real market prices that might shock you. The coin we are talking about is the 1980 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark. This coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During that time, Philadelphia cents traditionally did not carry a mint mark. So when you see a 1980 penny without a mint mark under the date, that means it was made in Philadelphia. At first glance, it may look ordinary. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln's portrait, designed by Victor David Brenner. The word Liberty appears on the left. The date 1980 is stamped on the right. Above Lincoln's head, the words "In God We Trust" are proudly displayed. On the back, you see the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Inside the memorial, if you look closely, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated, but here is where things get interesting. In 1980, the United States Mint was still producing pennies made mostly of copper. These coins were composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. They weighed about 3.11 grams. Just 2 years later, in 1982, the mint changed the composition to copper-plated zinc because copper prices were rising. That makes pre-1982 cents, including the 1980 no-mint mark, part of the last era of mostly copper Lincoln cents. Now let's talk about mintage. In 1980, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 7 billion Lincoln cents. That number sounds huge, and it is. Because of this high mintage, most 1980 no-mint mark pennies are very common in circulated condition. If you find one in pocket change today, it is usually worth face value. 1 cent. Maybe a few cents for its copper content if saved in bulk, but coin collecting is not just about mintage numbers. It is about condition. It is about errors. It is about survival rates in high grades. And this is where the real value begins to show. In circulated condition, meaning the coin has been used in everyday transactions and shows wear on Lincoln's hair, cheek, and jawline, the value typically ranges from 1 cent to a few cents. Even bright red circulated examples usually do not bring strong premiums. However, when we move into uncirculated grades, things change. A 1980 no-mint mark penny in brilliant red uncirculated condition, graded mint state 65 by a major grading service, can sell for around $10 to $20 depending on eye appeal and luster. Now imagine a coin that has survived more than 4 decades with almost perfect surfaces. No major marks. Strong strike. Vibrant red color. In grades like mint state 67, collectors begin competing. These high-grade examples are much scarcer than people realize because most coins from this era were stored loosely in bags and rolls, leading to contact marks. In top certified grades such as mint state 67 plus, auction records have reached several $100s. In rare cases, near superb gem examples have crossed the auction block for over $1,000 when registry set collectors compete aggressively, but we are not finished yet. Let's talk about errors. Because sometimes the difference between 1 cent and hundreds of dollars comes down to a tiny mistake at the mint point. One of the most sought-after varieties is the 1980 double die obverse. On this variety, you can see noticeable doubling in the lettering, especially in the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." The date may also show doubling. This happens when the die used to strike the coin was improperly created, causing a doubled image. A strong double die example in circulated condition can sell for $100 to $200 depending on clarity of the doubling. In uncirculated grades, especially with bright red surfaces, auction prices can climb to several $100s and sometimes over $1,000 for high-grade certified pieces. There are also off-center strikes, where the design is not fully centered on the planchet. The value of an off-center 1980 cent depends on how dramatic the error is. A 10 to 20% off-center example might sell for $20 to $50. A 50% off-center coin with a full visible date can command several $100s. Clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the coin is missing due to a cutting mistake, are also collectible. These can range from $30 to over $100 depending on size and condition. Another fascinating error involves broadstrike coins, struck without the collar that normally shapes the coin's edge. These appear wider and slightly thinner. Values for these errors often range from $50 to $150. Collectors also look carefully for repunched mint marks on coins from other mints in different years, but remember, the 1980 no mint mark is correct as issued from Philadelphia. The key is not the absence of a mint mark alone, but whether the coin shows exceptional quality or a true mint error. So how do you know if your 1980 no mint mark penny is special? First, check the weight. It should be about 3.11 grams. Second, examine the surfaces under magnification. Look for doubling in the letters. Look at Lincoln's hair and cheek for sharpness. Look for strong red color with minimal brown toning. Third, consider professional grading if the coin appears flawless. Many collectors overlook modern-era coins because they assume rarity only exists in the early 1900s. But registry competition has changed the game. High-grade modern coins are gaining attention because survival in pristine condition is much lower than original mintages suggest, and here is something else to think about. As time passes, more of these copper cents are lost, damaged, or melted in countries where copper value rises. High-grade examples become harder to find. Error coins become locked away in collections. Supply slowly tightens. Now let's talk clearly and honestly about real market value. A circulated 1980 Lincoln cent with no mint mark is worth 1 cent to 5 cents. An uncirculated red example in mint state 65 is worth approximately $10 to $20. In mint state 67. Real auction sales have ranged from $300 to over $1,000 depending on appeal and certification. A strong double die obverse variety can bring $100 to over $1,000 based on grade and strength of doubling. Major off-center or dramatic mint errors can sell for $50 to several $100s depending on the percentage off-center and overall condition. This is why coin collectors say never ignore your change. Because sometimes value hides in plain sight. The 1980 no mint mark Lincoln cent may not be rare in ordinary condition, but in extraordinary condition or with extraordinary errors, it becomes a prize. A small copper disc that carries history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery. So the next time you see a penny dated 1980, do not just toss it aside. Hold it. Examine it. Respect it. Because even the most common coin can hold uncommon value when condition, error, and collector demand come together. Coin collecting is not just about money. It is about the hunt. The knowledge. The excitement of finding something special where others see nothing, and who knows? The next valuable Lincoln cent might already be in your hands.